When people think about the biggest frauds in history, they usually imagine gold, oil, or maybe Wall Street. But one of the most famous scams ever, it was about postage stamps. Yeah, actual stamps. And somehow, this small, almost absurd idea managed to fool thousands of ordinary families, pull in millions of dollars, and give its name to every scam that came after. Today we call them Ponzi schemes. But back in 1920, it was just Mr. Ponzi's deal. Now, before we really get into it, if you like this kind of content, where we break down money, power, and the hidden systems behind them, make sure you like the video and subscribe. Because this story, it's not just history. It's something you've probably seen, just in a different form. To understand why people lined up to hand this man their savings, you have to imagine what his world felt like. A world where your neighbor whispers, "I just doubled my money." A world where immigrants are desperate for a shortcut to the American dream. A world where missing out feels more dangerous than being wrong. And honestly, that world doesn't feel that far away. The man at the center of it all was Charles Ponzi, an Italian immigrant who arrived in the United States in 1903 with just $250. He wasn't a financial genius. He spent years drifting from job to job, getting into trouble, sometimes scheming, often failing. He even went to prison for forging checks, and later got caught smuggling migrants across the Canadian border. He wasn't respected, he wasn't trusted, but he had something else. He was convincing. And when people are desperate, that's more powerful than intelligence. After World War I, America was full of people trying to rebuild their lives. The war had ended. The Spanish flu had killed millions, and cities like Boston were filled with immigrants chasing a better future. They worked in factories, in shops, on docks, and almost all of them had the same thought. There has to be a faster way. So when whispers started spreading that a man in Boston could turn $100 into $150 in just 45 days, people listened. Ponzi's idea sounded complicated, enough to feel real. He talked about international reply coupons. After the war, exchange rates were chaotic. In theory, you could buy these coupons cheaply in one country and redeem them in the US for more valuable postage, arbitrage, risk-free profit. At least, that's how he explained it. But here's the truth. Nobody really understood the system, and nobody cared, because what people actually saw was simple. Money going in, and more money coming out. A barber invests, gets paid. A shop owner invests, gets paid. A widow invests, gets paid. And each of them tells someone else. A customer, a neighbor, a friend. And just like that, the story spreads. Not through advertising, through trust. By 1920, crowds were lining up outside his office in Boston. Literally lining up, holding envelopes of cash, waiting for their turn. At his peak, Ponzi was taking in about $1 million a day. That's tens of millions in today's money. Every single day. Banks that once ignored him now wanted to work with him. Newspapers called him a genius, a financial wizard. A man who had somehow outsmarted the global system using stamps. But none of it was real. There weren't enough coupons in the world to support what he claimed. Not even close. Ponzi wasn't making profits. He was simply taking money from new investors and using it to pay the old ones. That's it. And here's the part that really matters. Even when doubts started to appear, people kept investing because others were still getting paid. Because maybe it works. Because what if it's real? Because what if I miss out? That fear? That's the real engine behind every Ponzi scheme. Eventually, the cracks became impossible to ignore. Journalists started asking questions. Investigators stepped in, and the numbers didn't add up. Panic spread. The same people who once lined up to invest now lined up to withdraw. And when that happens in a system like this, it doesn't slow down, it collapses fast. Thousands of families lost everything. Savings, homes, businesses. For many of them, it wasn't just money, it was hope. Ponzi himself? He was arrested, went to prison. After release, he tried new scams, failed again. Eventually, he died broke in a charity hospital. But his name didn't disappear. It became permanent. Every scam that follows the same pattern, we still call it a Ponzi scheme. And here's why this story still matters. Because nothing really changed. In 2008, Bernie Madoff ran the largest Ponzi scheme in history. Billions lost, not just by ordinary people, but by banks, funds, institutions, people who should have known better. And today, crypto scams, fake investment platforms, guaranteed returns, different technology, same psychology. It was never about stamps. It's about people, about how easily we believe something when everyone around us says it's working. So next time you hear everyone's making money, this is risk-free. This one is different. Just remember, so was Ponzi. If this gave you a new perspective, like the video and subscribe. And if you want to really understand how money, power, and these systems work, watch the full documentary on the channel.